It's been a while, ladies and gentlemen, but we finally made it to opening night of the 2025-2026 season. And with that comes the return of the Leafs Nation pregame and after dark show, videos, whatever you want to call it, right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube channel, presentation of Bet365. Now, for those of you who are finding the pregame videos for the first time, typically in the pregame videos, and what we're going to start at today in Game 1 against Montreal Canadiens is a little bit of a line overview, what we have for today's roster, some surprises, some of what we expected, my expectations for the game, and then we're going to get into our best bet. So, let's not waste any time because I've got some thoughts on tonight's lineup. Let's head on over to Daily Faceoff and see what we're working with for tonight's lines 1 through 4, and then our defense, power play, penalty kill, goaltender, all of that over courtesy of our friends at Daily Faceoff. Starting with our first line, you're going to have Matthew Knies, Auston Matthews, and Matias Maccelli. Yes, Matias Maccelli. That's what we're calling him, right? Since he came here, he's a skilled playmaker, plays on the right wing with Matthews and Knies, just seamlessly slides into that spot that was once filled by somebody who left in the offseason. Matias Maccelli. It makes sense. Now, in all seriousness, this is kind of the lineup that I expect to have going forward and hope works out, because in that case, you're not really going out and looking for all these serious other options to play in your top 6 with such a demand behind them. If you consider how it shapes up right now with some of the concerns that we have and the fact that we're not necessarily certain this will work out, the need to go out and acquire a top 6 forward is much higher than it might be if this experiment works, because then a top 6 forward is a luxury and not a necessity, which is a position I would much rather Brad Treliving be in as the season progresses and we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. So I kind of think that's where a lot of Leafs fans are at as well going into this one. Now, the way I see this shaping up is Matias Maccelli is kind of a complementary piece to these guys, much more than he is to Max Domi, or than Max Domi is to these guys on the first line, or than Maccelli would be on the third line, which we will also break down once we get there. But I just feel like this is a better fitting lineup than what you would have if Domi is up there and Maccelli is down on your third line. So that first line makes sense to me. Now just expectations. I hope Knies continues to build off of what he had last year. Matthews, he looked healthy through the preseason. That's going to be the biggest thing for me here tonight in this game against Montreal. How does he look? Is he battling? Is he in the corners? Is he shooting the puck? Is he taking one-timers? How does the release look? Like, those health-related things are going to be the most important when it comes to determining what to expect out of Auston Matthews this season. Matias Maccelli, commit to playing in both zones, because you're going to play with 2 guys in Matthews and Knies who both will do that. Make sure if you are going into the offensive zone, you are not afraid to retrieve pucks. The other 2 will do it, but you can't be the guy sitting as the focal point. You're not the focal point. Auston Matthews is the focal point. Matthew Knies is more so the focal point than you are. So make sure he understands his role, and with that, execute playmaking. Execution is going to be huge for him if he wants to stick there. Point production, it's going to be important. Like, it's rare that I come on here and talk about, okay, yeah, points matters, it's how you play. Matias Maccelli, point production, when you're playing with Auston Matthews and Matthew Knies, it's really, really important for him to be putting up some points and being involved in the offense. Going to your second line. This is where it kind of feels like it fits, and you're really hoping one piece works as well. John Tavares, William Nylander. No surprises there. Willie just continues to be a scoring machine. Johnny T turned back the clock last year. How long his legs last under him this year? Can he keep up what he did last year? I don't know. We're going to find that out this season. But then you go over to Bobby McMann, who's on the left wing, second line left wing there. He's the kind of question mark piece here, where you have Maccelli on the first line. It's Bobby McMann on the second. You look at Bobby McMann and the way he started last season after getting scratched in Game 1. He came out the gates like he was shot out of a cannon. He was physical. He was winning battles. He was a problem to deal with in the corners. He was finding ways to score goals. And then basically after February into the playoffs, Bobby McMann was just a warm body, as Rosie put it on Leafs Morning Take this morning. He was a guy who was on the ice, and he's a serviceable NHL player. That's fine, and I have all the respect in the world for guys who do that. I'm sitting in a chair talking about it, not on the ice with them, so they have obviously taken a step above what I could do. But that said, you want to stay in that top six, you have to be impactful. Can McMann return to the form that he was in leading up to the February of last year? Or is he going to be the guy who got scratched by Craig Berube to open the season? And is he going to be the guy who kind of disappeared a little bit and was a third, fourth line guy when it came to February on and into the playoffs? That's the question mark for me on the second line. Now, you look at what you have here for your third and your fourth lines: Dakota Joshua, Max Domi, Nic Robertson. Now, Nic Robertson finds his way into this roster out of camp, which I'm sure was something he's really proud of. I think it comes a little bit of, I don't know if I want to say good fortunes, because it's a negative on one side that opens up a door for him to come out the other way, and that would be Scott Laughton, who's on injured reserve here. He's going to be week to week. Think it's just going to be something this team has to work through, because I don't think you replace what Laughton does with guys who are already not in your lineup. When you look at David Kampf, Nic Robertson, Easton Cowan, who we'll touch on in a moment, but you look at those guys, they're not really going to replace what Scott Laughton can give you if he's 100% and he's playing at his peak. So you're just going to have to find guys who can figure it out. Nic Robertson, he showed flashes last year that he could be a guy who could do that. He showed flashes that he could be a guy who could play a little bit with more of an edge. He could be a little bit more defensively responsible, but it wasn't consistent. And he's a guy over and over I've talked about. If he's not at his A game and scoring goals, what else do you do for the team? What else do you do to impact the game and the roster? A lot of times there was a drop-off. A lot of times part of his game was missing. Can he be consistent? If he can, he could find his way into this lineup on a nightly basis. If he can't, I don't see him fitting here long term, and I don't know if I see him staying with the group past Christmas. You look at Dakota Joshua, Max Domi, they've got some clearly defined roles here tonight. Dakota Joshua is that physical presence, that physical power forward, a guy who could score you 20 to 25 goals if he figures it out and if he plays with the right guys. Max Domi hopefully is the playmaker of this line, who can drive it, he can play physical, he's got an edge. Nic Robertson, you're hoping, is the guy who's going to be your primary scorer here. And, as I mentioned, can bring the other elements of a true bottom six. Hard on the forecheck, win battles, finish checks. Nobody's asking you to fight guys and put them through the glass, but can you do the little things? That's what I'm hoping out of Nic Robertson here this season. That's what I'm hoping out of him here to start this year, and at least for the game tonight. Because if he can't do that, I don't know that he can last a long time here, and I don't know that this Nic Robertson, tenure in Toronto will be much longer. Down to your fourth line for tonight: Steven Lorentz, Nick Waugh, Calle Jarnkrok. I think Nick Waugh is just here out of necessity, as I kind of mentioned. I think that this is one of those ones where Laughton comes back, he's your 4C, Nick Waugh bumped up to 3C, Max Domi slides over to your third line right wing, and then it's a battle between Jarnkrok, Robertson, and Easton Cowan to see who could figure out who plays in that fourth line right wing spot. Because until then, I don't think Nick Waugh is your long-term 4C. I just kind of feel like this is one of those ones where he slides down there a little bit easier, and Domi can bump across and play with Nic Robertson, somebody he did find a little bit of success with last year. And then hopefully Dakota Joshua is kind of like that Bobby McMann piece that you saw out of the third line last year, when it was McMann, Domi, and Robertson, and they would go on these little stretches where they'd be really hot, really successful before it would taper off, and then Berube would change it again. So that's kind of how I see this lineup shaking out tonight. Those are your forwards. Just a quick thing to touch on before we move to the defense. Easton Cowan is an interesting case for me right now. He goes on waivers, or gets sent down, not on waivers. He doesn't have to go on waivers. He gets sent down to the Marlies It is a pure cap move that we saw out of the Maple Leafs. Send some guys to the IR, hold Jacob Quillen up with the Leafs, then you swap it today. We saw Quillen go down, Cowan come up. It's just a cap situation. I'm not even going to try to explain what the hell they just did. That is Brandon Pridham working his genius there behind the scenes to make the cap work and get them the extra dollars that they can throughout the season. That's all he's doing, is moving guys around. But what I will say that I don't understand is if Easton Cowan's not going to play, why is he up here with the Leafs? I think he's a guy who has to be playing games. I don't want him sitting in the press box. I don't want him playing 7 minutes a night. I don't want him questioning his worth or his confidence or anything. If he's not playing with the NHL team, go to the Marlies and light it up. Be the best player on the team, be the best player in the league, whatever it is. Go to the AHL and play with the Marlies and get the minutes. Play 25 goddamn minutes a night. I don't care. But if you're gonna if you're gonna be with the Maple Leafs, you gotta play. That's the only issue I have or question that I have about what's going on with Easton Cowan, who is healthy scratch for game 1 here tonight. Jumping over to the defense, picking up where we left off last season. Morgan Rielly, Brandon Carlo is your first pair. Jake McCabe, Chris Tanev, your second. And OEL and Simone Benoit will be your third. I don't have too many thoughts. I like the D. I like their contracts. I like what they can bring. The only thing I'm going to really point out here tonight is the first pair. Carlo, Rielly. Rielly struggled last year for basically the entire season. Game 7 against Florida was brutal for him as well. I think when Brandon Carlo got here, you could see why he was why he was costing as much as he did at the deadline, why he was a piece that Brad Treliving was interested in getting and went out and got for this team into the playoffs. But he never really clicked with Rielly, and it was an uncomfortable kind of pairing, and just the chemistry lacked. I think part of it was Rielly. I think part of it was Carlo never getting his footing. Hopefully a playoff run here, a full summer, a training camp, playing alongside Morgan Rielly can get him up to speed. The other really important piece of this, which starts tonight, can Morgan Rielly figure out his game and fit into this system? Craig Berube asks a very specific thing. It is a slower, kind of structured, defensively responsible game that Morgan Rielly has not necessarily conformed to throughout his entire time in Toronto. Craig Berube came in. It really didn't work for him. We really saw him struggle. How will he adapt going into this season? We saw he lost weight. He's supposed to be feeling better. He's going to be running power play 1, like all these things. Will he be more confident? Will he be able to handle it? How will that impact Brandon Carlo? Those are questions I have. Then when we go to our power play units, as I mentioned, Morgan Rielly steps in replacement of the other guy. Matthew Knies, John Tavares, William Nylander, Auston Matthews will be your forwards on the first unit. Morgan Rielly is the quarterback of power play 1. Now going down to power play 2, Bobby McMann, Nic Roy, Max Domi, Ekman Larsson, and Matias Maccelli are your second unit. Just quickly here, touching on goaltending, Anthony Stolarz will get the net here tonight. I anticipate Anthony Stolarz being the number 1 guy for a long period of time here in Toronto. He signs that extension. He wants to stay here. He gets paid. Like, all the responsibility goes to him. No idea how long Joseph Woll is going to be out for, so it's going to be up to Anthony Stolarz to carry the weight for as long as possible, and I have full faith that he could do it. Stolarz against Montembeault. Only thing I'll say before we go to the bets, let's just hope tonight's game is not like what we saw last year for the Leafs, where they lost and got shut out, because that was painful to wait a whole summer, and first game of the year, you don't see any goals. So that for sure stunk. No, I'm just going to call it what it is. All right, let's get to our best bet presented by Bet365. Thank you to our friends at Bet365 for coming back this season. This show was a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. Use the code NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N, at Bet365. must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. All right, let's get to our best bet here. And a quick reminder for the people. Last year, through the entire regular season and playoffs, we finished with a profit. That is right, a profit of $1,031. That would be 10.31 units that we won last year and profited. So let's hope to keep that going this season. And we're going to start it off with a two-banger here tonight, courtesy of our friends over at Bet365. Taking a look at what we've got on the Bet365 site here now. Yes, you can find tonight's game matchup where the Leafs are heavily favored, -170. The Habs are +145. But I got two bets for you, and if you guys know me, you know the bets I like to give out. Neither of them are side or total. Let's head on over to the player tab. We're going to stick in the goal scorers. Let's start at the top. We're going to go a half unit on William Nylander, anytime goal, +160. The best price you're going to get in the market is at Bet365 on this one, $50. That is a half unit. $50 profits you $80 here tonight. That is going to be bet one. This one is simple. Willie Nylander is just a goal-scoring weapon, and I think +160 just does not accurately represent what William Nylander can do on a nightly basis. So I am in on Willie Nye +160, a guy who loves the big moment, loves to shine, loves to show up when it matters. Home ice, Montreal Canadiens, season opener. Give me a William Nylander anytime goal. The second one I'm going to go with, you got to scroll a little bit down on the page here. You're going to find it sitting lower down, right around +700 there. We're going to go with Nicolas Roy, anytime goal, +700. This one, we're going to go $20. A fifth of a unit on $20 will profit you $140 here tonight. Look, it's his debut with the team. I think he's a lot more offensively inclined than you kind of traditionally look at like a third, fourth line guy to be. I think he's a guy that actually probably could play on your second line if you needed him to, but he's just versatile. He can play physical. He can play heavy. He told Alberga and Rosehill in the summer that he was a Leafs fan. He loved Matt Sundin. I think he's going to be fired up in his debut. He's getting second power play opportunity, which we know here in Toronto typically equates to like 20 seconds. But there's the off chance that somebody comes off early and he jumps on, or he gets a late opportunity with the net empty, or whatever it may be. So Nick Roy, anytime goal, is my second best bet of the night at +700. Two best bets, Nylander anytime goal, +160. Half unit on that to profit $80. Nick Roy, anytime goal, +700. A fifth of a unit, $20, profits you $140. Those are my best bets for tonight's game. If you enjoyed this video, if you like the breakdown, if you like the best bets, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe here to the channel, the Leafs Nation 401, right here on YouTube. And as well, reminder, I will be back following the final buzzer of tonight's game right here on this channel alongside Jay Rosehill, who will be stopping by the Leafs Nation After Dark show to break down everything that happened in Game 1. I know this is a longer video. The future ones will be a little bit shorter, but I appreciate everyone stopping in. Thank you guys for watching the first one here of the season. I couldn't be more excited to be back. I appreciate you all. I look forward to seeing everyone back here tonight following the game for the first edition of Leafs Nation After Dark of the 2025-2026 season. Thank you all, and keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos, make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and drop a like.